I imagine there's gonna be two camps of people with this video. You're either gonna think, yeah, monsters are awesome, or you're gonna think, bro, have you considered seeing a neurologist? The premise of this video is that I'm going to talk about my history of liking monsters and why I think they're cool. Now, I'm going to be extremely broad with my definition of monster, so if you're really into cryptozoology and you're annoyed that I refer to a cryptid as a monster, that's understandable, you're correct, but honestly I just wanted to talk about Sasquatches and slimes within the same video. Hopefully you understand this common desire. So I got the idea to make this video from a conversation I had. At the time I was working on my making up fake cryptids and folklore creatures video, and I was telling someone about my ideas for creatures, and then they asked me if the reason why I like Dungeons and Dragons was because of the monsters, and I thought to myself, dang, is Lyos literally me? Actually I'm fine with this. After thinking about it, I don't think monsters are the main reason why I like D&D, but they definitely are one of the reasons. I've just always thought that monsters were cool. I've mentioned this before, but I've been a Sasquatch fan since day one of existing. I remember as a kid on vacation, while we were driving past a forest, I was taking photos out the window, trying to get lucky with a picture of Bigfoot. I succeeded, by the way. I got a photo of a black thing. Realistically, it was probably like the darkness of the forest or something. I don't know. Probably wasn't Bigfoot. It might have been though. It definitely wasn't, but it might have been though. The Loch Ness Monster was a big one I was fascinated with too. I remember a few times I looked up footage of Loch Ness and tried to spot them. Sadly, I wasn't as lucky with them as I was with Bigfoot, so I never got to see them, but still, was a big fan of their work. And then when Gravity Falls released, my monster fascination was amplified. Gravity Falls quickly became my favorite thing, and Journal 3 especially I thought was incredibly hype. Something about the book containing a bunch of info on monsters is extremely appealing to me. In real life, I've owned a few different books on cryptids that I've liked, and I remember learning about the D&D monster manual long before I first played D&D, and being fascinated by it, though I didn't end up getting it. But I think fiction is really when monster books fascinate me. I don't know why, maybe it's just because they feel more mysterious since I can't read them, unless a physical version is released later like with Journal 3. I'm unsure. But outside of Gravity Falls, I remember when I watched Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, I just thought the movie was fine, but that monster book of monsters scene really stuck with me. How to Train Your Dragon also sorta had a monster book in it. I never got into the series as a whole, but that first movie when Hiccup reads from that book about dragons, that's peak right there. After that scene, I wanted to read that book and start learning about dragons. By the way, this goes against the entire plot of the movie, but for me, most of the dragons lost story when they became understood. They went from being like awesome monsters to just being like cool dogs. It's better that way for the plot, but afterwards it didn't exactly give the type of monster energy that I like. A part of me was like, kill! I craved that violence. But anyway, as I was saying, Gravity Falls and I suppose other pieces of the media like the ones I mentioned ended up increasing my fascination with monsters. Whether it be cryptids, folklore creatures, RPG monsters, whatever. I'm not sure how the timeline for this lines up, but I'm going to quickly go through some more monsters I was fascinated by before getting into my potential reasoning for liking them. So I very vaguely recall watching a Fred movie where lion bear skunk hybrid cryptid was mentioned, and I thought it was cool at the time. I don't know, man. I swear I'm not a Fred fan. I'm just a fan of cool stuff like hybrid creatures. Also, there's a slight chance I'm gaslighting myself with this one. It might have come to me in a dream. I have no evidence that this is real, and I'm not gonna watch a Fred movie to confirm if that actually happened. But I know iCarly had an episode where Spencer looked for a beef coon. It was a half beaver, half raccoon, and I thought it was the coolest episode ever. It was peak fiction for me. Dog with a Blog had an episode titled World of Wolfcraft, where the dog plays WoW, and they mentioned a creature called an Octobunny, and I for some reason thought that was cool at the time. Real life had an episode, in real life, the jackalope fascinated me, and I still do. Jackalopes are awesome. I'm a big Dullahan fan. Trolls from Norway are cool. Fur-bearing trout, my beloved. Ghosts are pretty cool. My definition of monster is becoming broader with each second that passes. Herobrine, the Minecraft urban legend, is neat. It legitimately used to scare me. As a kid, I was convinced that Herobrine was actually in the game. Aliens are fine. I've never really been an alien guy. Unless you count the Flatwoods Monster, then I kind of care. Canine kobolds are awesome. I spent an entire month thinking about them while working on my last video, which is at least twice the amount the average person would think about them. Werewolves are very cool. I swear I'm not a furry. Vampires, slimes. Now I should probably stop since I don't want 90% of this video to just be me listing monsters. I'll try to keep it down to around 80%. But as you can tell, monsters are my Roman Empire. I'm like a truck freak but with monsters. A monster truck freak. Not like that though. But what's the reason? Why do I like monsters instead of something normal like trains or dinosaurs? What's the main thing that connects Herobrine, beefcoons, Sasquatches, and slimes together? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. As a kid, you just like things. I don't know if I can really point to a specific reason. I just thought that weird creatures were cool. And I still think that, just to a slightly lesser degree. Although if I had to point to a specific reason, I'd say that for a monster to fascinate me, it has to have some mix between mystery, elusiveness, coolness, and danger. Not every monster that I've liked has necessarily fallen into any of those categories. Like looking back on some of them, I'm like, okay. Was it okay back then? Am I okay now? Why do I still kind of think this is cool? But at least most of the time I'd say those attributes are accurate. With cryptids like Bigfoot, the mystery is usually the most important part. If someone catches a Sasquatch, that'd be incredible at first, but then after it's studied, it just becomes a regular animal. Cats would be superior to them. And as I mentioned, the dragons from How to Train Your Dragon lost story when they became understood, because there wasn't as much mystery. They downgraded to being equal to cool dogs, not even cat tier. I think for a lot of them, the mystery is the most important aspect. It can be the mystery of if they exist, or just a sense of mystery and vagueness in the piece of media they're from. Honestly, even creatures that are made as hoaxes can kind of tap into that mystery feeling that I like. For example, the hodag is a fearsome critter, and everything about them is confirmed to be a hoax. There's a 0% chance that the hodag exists. It might exist though. It definitely doesn't, but it might exist though. I can kind of gaslight myself for fun and imagine that could be real for a bit. I have a respect for hoaxes that end up creating cool folklore like that. But anyway, I'm sure I could keep talking for hours about monsters. Like I could go through them and explain like, oh, animated skeletons evoke more of a danger aspect of my interest in monsters and less of a mystery element. Or like, I could mention how as a kid I got a book on jackalopes. Or I could mention how I'm not a fan of monsters that are like artificial in their lore. Like if it was made in a lab then I don't care. I don't know, if you want another video on monsters where I ramble for an hour, I can easily do that, but that's all for now. Hopefully you gained something from this video. I don't know what that'd be, but hopefully it was something. Oh, by the way, there's one more monster that I like which I neglected to mention. Snake